The narrative of Mexico, akin to that of its northern neighbor, the United States, encompasses a notable era of colonization, succeeded by a struggle for independence. Following the Spaniards' overthrow of the Aztec Empire in the 16th century, their dominance extended across the region until the Napoleonic invasion of Spain introduced complexities in the 1800s. A revolt became unavoidable as the Mexican populace grew weary of their oppressive colonizers and ultimately reached a breaking point. The Spanish first engaged with Mexico in 1519 when Hernán Cortés embarked on a journey with the primary objective of colonization. Initially, Governor Diego Velázquez sanctioned Hernán's expedition to Mexico, but later withdrew his support before the latter could depart. Undeterred by the governor's reversal, Cortés resolved to proceed regardless. During his voyage, he made a brief stop in Trinidad to gather additional men and horses, ultimately completing his expedition with approximately 11 ships, 500 men, and 13 horses. He anchored in Tabasco in February 1519 and was subsequently invited by the Aztec Emperor Montezuma II to the capital of Tenochtitlan, as the emperor believed that Cortés might be the serpent god Quetzalcoatl, prophesied to return that year. Emperor Montezuma received Cortés as a distinguished guest, entirely oblivious to his genuine motives or the fact that the conquistador had forged numerous new alliances with local factions, discontented with Aztec governance during his journey to Tenochtitlan. Seizing the opportunity, Cortés took the emperor hostage and orchestrated a raid on the capital city, which was home to over 140,000 residents. While Cortés was conducting his currently successful incursion, he received word of another Spanish expedition en route from Cuba, led by Panfilo Narvaez, aimed at apprehending Cortés. This mission was initiated due to his unauthorized voyage to Mexico without the backing of Governor Diego Velázquez, intending to terminate his conquest. Cortés was determined not to be hindered and opted to temporarily exit the city to confront Narvaez directly, leaving Pedro de Alvarado along with a few hundred soldiers, a mix of Spanish and Tlaxcaltecs, to oversee Tenochtitlan until his return. Regrettably, Alvarado chose to take drastic actions, resulting in the massacre of several chiefs of the empire, which ignited a fierce rebellion among the Aztec forces. Upon Cortés' return, he and his men were compelled to retreat as the Aztecs valiantly counterattacked. Despite the Spaniards' success in killing Emperor Montezuma, they suffered significant losses, undoing much of the progress they had achieved prior to their retreat. It is estimated that in a single night, now referred to as the Night of Sorrows, the Spaniards lost approximately half of their forces. Those who managed to flee were left injured and exhausted, having also lost their cannons along with many of their comrades. Additionally, most of their gunpowder had been depleted, and they were fortunate to find refuge in the friendly province of Tlaxcala to recuperate. Meanwhile, the newly appointed Aztec Emperor, Cuitlahuac, was not inclined to show mercy. Instead, he assembled as many soldiers as possible to form a large army under the leadership of his brother, Matlasincatzin, and dispatched them to decisively defeat the Spaniards. The weary remnants of Cortés' forces encountered the Aztecs in the valley of Otumba around July 7, 1520. Although the Aztecs significantly outnumbered Cortés and his men, the Spaniards were seasoned veterans equipped with superior armor and weaponry. Nevertheless, the Aztecs appeared to gain the upper hand early in the battle. Cortés, however, remained undeterred and devised a new, risky, yet brilliant strategy. After spotting Matlasincatzin and his generals due to their vividly colored uniforms, Cortés rallied his most skilled horsemen, Alonso de Avila, Cristobal de Olid, Juan de Salamanca, Pablo de Sandoval, and Pedro de Alvarado, and launched a sudden charge towards the Aztec leaders. The latter were utterly perplexed, and the shock caused Matlasincatzin to falter, providing Juan de Salamanca the opportunity to bring him down with his lance. Initially, the priest's endeavor was unsuccessful, as he and his rebels were defeated at Calderon in January 1811 while attempting to seize the capital. Although they had captured several cities on their route to the capital, Hidalgo himself met a brutal fate shortly thereafter. Following an attempt to escape further north into the United States, the rebel was apprehended, stripped of his priestly status, and executed by firing squad. Nevertheless, the people of New Spain were far from defeated. Another revolutionary priest, José María Morelos y Pavón, allied with a former Spanish royalist army general, Agustín Iturbide, along with other rebel leaders such as Vicente Guerrero. When a new liberal government assumed power in Spain in 1820, they sought to resolve the revolution and placate their colony with new reforms. However, the conservative faction of New Spain was dissatisfied with the new approach and joined the call for independence. The subsequent year, Agustín de Iturbide and Vicente Guerrero drafted the Plan of Iguala, which aimed to establish the colony's independence and create a new constitutional monarchy. The newly established independent Mexico would continue to align itself with the Roman Catholic Church and would regard Spaniards born in Mexico in the same manner as any other Spaniard. However, indigenous Mexicans and those of mixed heritage would not enjoy equal rights or privileges. The remaining royalist factions that resisted the revolution were ultimately defeated, placing the new Spanish viceroy in a challenging situation. Lacking the essential resources or troops necessary to mount a refusal, the viceroy, Juan de O'Donoghue, signed the Treaty of Córdoba on August 24, 1821. This treaty acknowledged Mexican independence and affirmed the establishment of a constitutional monarchy. When no ruler of Bourbon lineage could be located, Iturbide was instead crowned as the first emperor of Mexico. Nevertheless, Iturbide's reign was brief, as Antonio López de Santa Anna, along with Guadalupe Victoria, deposed the emperor and drafted a new constitution that transitioned the empire into a federal republic, consisting of 19 states and 4 territories. Guadalupe Victoria assumed the role of the first president, while Antonio López de Santa Anna became a general, famously recognized for his successful siege of the Alamo during Texas's War for Independence in 1836. General López and his Mexican forces triumphed in the Battle of the Alamo, although Texas would achieve independence later that same year, a fact that Mexico blatantly disregarded until the conclusion of the Mexican-American War, which resulted in the loss of Texas, California, and the Southwest. While General López also held the presidency of Mexico for a period, he was eventually exiled after having faced exile multiple times before, and he could not return until shortly before his death in 1876. By that time, France had briefly occupied Mexico before withdrawing in 1867, and Porfirio Diaz emerged as a new controversial president in the 1870s. His dictatorship incited the Mexican Revolution in 1910, leading to a civil war that claimed approximately 2 million lives. Ultimately, starting in 1934, the administration of Lázaro Cárdenas provided essential stability and progress for the country. Presently, despite Mexico facing various struggles and challenges, it stands as a completely independent nation and is a founding member of the United Nations. Thank you for your attention.